So we are now getting started. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending the third Pass the Mic. This is something that I've been looking forward to because in many ways it's like a culmination of what I've been doing for the last several years. As a lot of you know, I've been working on my doctorate, and to my, who are you, my left or my right? Dr. Monk is my editor. And so what my emphasis has been on is the power and the importance of mentoring and its impact on young people in our community. And I had a discussion recently with a young lawyer who worked at the Bronx District Attorney's Office. And she was telling me about the myriad of programs that are alternative to carceral programs. And it just really made me think about the importance of promoting this issue within our community. So hence the third Pass the Mic. I'd like to also subtitle this Humble Beginnings and Local Heroes. You know, we often hear about everything that's going on in broader society, but we also have to think, we have to stop and think, well, what is it that I can do? You know, the Reverend Adam Clayton Powell had a very well-known sermon, and his premise is, well, what is in your hands? And that's something that I always think about because we have the ability to do a whole lot. And so I've assembled some local heroes today who come out of the community, who remain in the community, who are doing phenomenal things to impact the lives of many for the better. So I'd like to introduce who's here so far. Mr. Al Tariq White, who I've heard so much about over the years, and I'm glad that he has been able to make time to spend with us tonight to talk about his programs. I'm looking forward to hearing Mr. White. You want to say something?
I'm sorry, brother. Thank you. No, we're very, very happy to be a part of this very, very important topic, and I'm looking forward to adding value and adding, you know, what we bring at Leaders for Life to the community to the more broader scale. Very happy to be here. I do have to be off by 7:15. I do apologize, but very happy to be here though.
We'll make it work. And Dr. Monk.
I'm muting. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jermaine Monk, and I do appreciate Dr. Webb's invitation. And one of the things that I will hopefully be able to contribute is as a social worker and then also as a professor at a university, the perspective or the impact of mentoring, and I believe specifically within the criminal justice system. So I'm really excited about this topic, and I want to say thank you to my students. I see several of my students who are logged on, so I appreciate them taking the time to listen to and be a part of this conversation.
Okay, so thank you. So let us begin. One of the things that I've carried with me over the years was something I heard a long time ago. And we're fortunate because we have a spoken word artist, and I always try to like take things to the next level. So here we go with moving our material not just to people's responses, but we're branching out into the arts. We have Kajina Graham, who is a spoken word artist, an award-winning spoken word artist. And she's going to do a piece that I can't do because you'll see why. I mean, it's a piece that I've known of for many years, and it still hits me every time I hear it. And so, Ms. Graham, if you could present to us the piece, "You Don't Live on My Street."
Yes, thanks for having me. So you want to know why I'm always high and why you never ever see me cry? Why do I shoot up all this junk? Have you ever seen my dad sloppy drunk? Sure, I would like to have more knowledge, but my dad drank up all my money for college. So how can you look at me with such deceit when you don't live on my street? So you want to know why I run away? Why I'm boarded up in buildings I'm hiding each day? You want to know why I chose to steal? You want to know if I just got a meal? Well, I don't worry about getting good grades. All I worry about is getting AIDS. Look at you with your life so sweet, but you don't live on my street. You ask me why at 14 I'm having this baby. Am I ignorant, retarded, or just plain lazy? What on earth was I thinking about? I was hoping my mama wouldn't put me out. See, your mama's boyfriend ain't messing with you and putting his hands on your little sister too. Nah, the 7th grade I didn't complete. But hey, you don't live on my street. So, you wanna know why I dropped out of school? So many times you can be called a fool. Ever since the 1st grade, I've been called slow. So I wouldn't give an answer even if I did know. And how am I supposed to concentrate when I can't even remember the last time I ate? Do you ever live every day in defeat? Then you don't live on my street. You ask me why I stay with him when he beats my head again and again. You wanna know why I don't get upset? When he makes each drunken idle threat? Well, do you know I have rats running across my head? And when I lay down up in this broken bed, do you ever have to cross your feet? Then no, you don't live on my street. You wanna know why I'm not raising my child? Well, you know, I ain't worked in a while. You wanna know why I don't keep in touch? Is buying some Pampers asking for too much? Can I start running around this place? I'm ashamed to let my child see my face. You supposed to get out the kitchen when you can't take the heat. So nah, you don't live on my street. You don't know a thing about me. But there are some things you must see. Until you have walked in my shoes for a while and have a taste of my lifestyle, until you have lived in my house and given a name to each mouse, until you have seen your mama get beat, you don't even live on my street. Until you have walked my walk, until you have talked my talk, until you have knelt down on my knees, until you have ate my government cheese, until you have smelled life through my nose, until you have worn my pantyhose, until you have seen life through my eyes, until you have worn my dress size, until you have lived inside my head, until you have laid in my bed, until you have read what's on my mind, until you have stood in a welfare line, until you have been called my name, until you have felt some of my shame, until you have sold some of my dope, until you have lost all of my hope, until you have stood under my reign, until you have felt some of my pain, until you have eaten what I had to eat, then you understand this. You don't live on my street. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I heard that piece a long time ago, and I love it because it epitomizes it's like a composite of so much of what our community goes through. And our job as advocates is to help them to get through it. Welcome, Sam. So I want to get started with you, Latasha, because it was that conversation we had in your doorway that really triggered this. Latasha is a gem to me because her mom was a social worker. Her dearly beloved mom was a social worker. So you know she has a special place in my heart. And Latasha has always been there. Anytime I needed her to come and speak to students, even though she has risen to the heights of the legal profession, she is still in the community and there for us. So Latasha, could we have, you got the notes, right? Because you know me, I'm prepared. So I'd like for you to, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what is your perspective on, because we're talking about mentoring and decarceration. And so you're on that end of it. So I just want to hear from you because you always have something, and I benefit from your professional experience and your heart for the work that you've done.
Thank you so much, Charles Webb. Thank you. I really appreciate one, being invited to be a part of this panel. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the other panelists, because just your bios, the information that I received, you all sound really amazing. And I would love to hear your perspectives on these topics and these issues. But just like Mr. Webb indicated, my mom has since passed away, but she was a social worker. My mom was 19 years older than me. She was a single mom. She worked hard her whole entire life to make me the person that I am, and anything that I am is because of the sacrifices that she made. So I'm no longer a practicing attorney, but I am still an attorney. I went to Rutgers University and the Howard University School of Law. And after graduating from law school, I clerked for a judge. And then for the majority of my legal career, I was a prosecutor in the Bronx. For a portion, I prosecuted domestic violence cases. And then for another portion, I was in a new kind of novel bureau where I was an alternative to incarceration prosecutor. So I did not have trials. And what I did was I collaborated with defense counsel, judges, and line assistants or trial prosecutors to come up with alternatives to incarceration for people who were charged with various criminal offenses, all felonies, most of which were violent crime. But these were people who had some sort of resource need that we believed was a primary driver to their criminal activity. And the way I look at law or decarceration is, one, first and foremost, I think we need to move towards decarceration. But what I think is really important about looking at the law or judging the legal system is that law is one of many systems in a society, and it is reflective of the society that it comes from. So if there are issues of equality, if there are issues of equity, if there are issues of different people from different socioeconomic backgrounds being treated differently, that is because that is the system that we find ourselves in this case, the legal system, is mirroring the patterns of society as a whole. And while I do think we need to focus on decarceration within the legal context, I think larger issues of equity need to be discussed in society as a whole, because once we start trying to figure out how to prevent even the conversation of decarceration, because we're getting to people before they're even involved within the criminal justice system, then we can have conversations about just how to make society at large more just, so that we're talking about education system, legal system, mental health system, and all the systems that people of color, Black people in particular, socioeconomically disadvantaged people find themselves subject to.
I'm thinking about what you're saying, Tasha, and I'm thinking about your students, Dr. Monk, and the whole perspective from systems theory in terms of what may be missing in a person's environment, which will limit the choices that they make. So for example, if we don't have adequate transportation, if we don't have opportunities for employment, if we're looking at student behavior, even when they're in school and not addressing, and we look at behavior in terms of a criminal context versus an emotional or a psychological context. I think it's really important that we understand that sometimes if we put more resources into a community, we would have different outcomes. And so it's really important that we always keep those things in mind when I'm always, as all of us are, looking at information. And I was looking at like the statistics, the demographics for Rikers Island in New York. 56% people of color, Black and brown men. How does something like that happen when it doesn't reflect the overall population? There's something going on, and it's not just by chance. And so when we look at people who are in these systems, what is it that we can do to divert them from going into the criminal justice system? Because it's not the big picture, it's the long picture. You know, because these type of trajectories start in elementary school and primary school, where people make plans about what prison should look like by second and third grade test scores. So that's how formalized it is. So let's see. Sam, you're a student. Let's hear from you. What impact does mentoring have in your life, and why are you choosing social work as a field to pursue?
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you for inviting me here, Mr. Webb. I want to apologize for my background because I'm outside, but we rolling with it. So to answer your question, for me, I consider myself a student of life. No matter how many degrees I obtain, how many years I spend in school and finish with that, I'll always be a student, no matter how old I am. And I learn from a lot of people around me. There are different things that I pick up from people that I consider mentors without even asking them to be my mentor. So I chose to do social work because I enjoy and I love working with young people. And I believe that young people are what we should be investing in because they're our future. They will go where we can't, you know. They will go where we've been, but farther. So the more we can pour into them in terms of our past mistakes, the things that we've seen, the things that we've grown from, it can only serve them in a beneficial way. Whether they choose to take everything that we say, some of the things that we say, or half of it, is up to them. But the opportunity, the chance, the options, we have to give that to them. So I chose to get into social work so that I can be around as many kids as I can, to pour into them the same way I was poured into. You know, I was one of those kids who had a lot of trouble in school because I was trying to fit in sometimes. Other times I would lash out because I was internally going through things. And I didn't always understand my emotions. I didn't always understand the things that I was going through and the behaviors that I had. It took people who were older than me, people who, whether they were 5 years older than me, 10 years older than me, whatever it was, but people who walked sometimes in my shoes, or at least cared enough to speak to me. It took that for me to be where I am today. And if it wasn't for you know, some people pouring into me, I would probably be on a different route. So that's like a long-winded answer to your question. I just want to do what was done for me, which is pour into the youth.
Mr. White, let's hear from you, because you got a lot going on at what is the name of your program?
Leaders for Life.
Leaders for Life. Let's hear about Leaders. No, tell all of us about Leaders for Life and all the phenomenal things you're doing in the community.
Okay, well, thank you again for having me. Again, I apologize for having to leave before it's over, but I thought it was important enough for me to reschedule some things so I can be a part of this wonderful, wonderful event. My name is Altreek White, the founder and executive director of Leaders for Life, which is a nonprofit organization located here in the South Florida, providing mentoring, after school, middle school, transition to high schools, and we are an alternative high school recognized by the state of New Jersey Department of Education and the New Jersey Department of Labor. We service young people between the ages of 8 and 25, 8 to grades 2 to 8 for our after school program, obviously 5 to 8 for our middle school program, and our alternative high school is ages 16 to 25. Since 2017, the high school has been in existence. We've graduated 161 young people who previously didn't have a high school diploma. And pre-COVID, we may service between 55 and 75 young people in all various sorts of programs that we offer.
So what made you want to do this in the first place?
Great question. Thank you. My life, my experience growing up here in the city of Newark. I don't know, and many of you guys might not remember, I grew up on Belmont Avenue. I think they call it Irving Turner Boulevard now, but I never call it Irving Turner Boulevard. That's Belmont Avenue. Lost my mom at a very young age. Ended up being homeless for a short period of time when I was 15 years old. And my high school English teacher from Malcolm X Bass High School found me, brought me into his home, took legal custody of me, and pretty much saved my life. I was able to get back into high school. I was all state, made it to college on a football scholarship. I was All-American, made it to the NFL. What would my life been like had I not met Mr. Ward? So every day of my life, I tried to repay him in some form. The only payment he ever asked for me was if I ever had an opportunity to help a kid, I should do it. And that's been my driving force. That's been my passion, from mentoring to being a football coach, to running Leaders for Life, and to being an advocate for young people here in the city of Newark, particularly here in the South Ward. That is my why. My why is being able to find the me in these young people and then provide them with the resources they need to be successful, and give them that support, that guidance, that protection, that wherewithal that they can succeed, that they will succeed, and also partner with great people like yourself and others, Southport Promise Neighborhood, the city of Newark, the great mayor Raz Baraka, being able to provide resources for young people because they need it. I was listening to the young lady talk about the alternative to incarceration. Many of our young people, just need love, support, and guidance. We need more people in the communities to step up. When I was a kid, it was a village. It was truly a village. It was truly a village. We just need more people to step up and advocate for young people. Incarceration is not always the answer. Oftentimes, people just young people need love and attention and guidance. So that's why we started Leaders for Life. Since 2008, we've serviced 32,000 young people. We started out as a male mentoring program in 2007, 2008. fast forward to now, we are a co-ed program servicing, 7,000-8,000 young people on a yearly basis.
Somebody told me recently, when I do this, it means I'm thinking. So you're going to see me doing this a lot. Mr. White, so what's next for you? Because I see even more to come.
Yeah. Well, I can't divulge a lot. We got some stuff coming down the pipe. We just want to continue.
Absolutely.
We just going to continue to partner with people like yourself and others, and to expand our reach. We want to be able to support young people in other sections of North. We want to be able to take this message and take this support system we have and service as many young people as we possibly can. But just know that there are some good things coming down the pipe. Just give me a little more time. I can't divulge them right now, but they are coming.
I have some ideas. Now, is yours a co-educational program?
Yes, we're an alternative high school. First of all, we're a nonprofit agency, and award-winning after-school program, male mentoring program, middle school to transition to high school program. And, we just been awarded a major grant to continue and expand our alternative high school throughout the county. So we are countywide in terms of our alternative high school. But, we're looking for, we never turn anybody away. We definitely won't turn away kids. So I don't care where you live at. You're going to get the support. You're going to get the love. You're going to get the guidance from myself and my staff.
Well, I'm just going to put it out there. I see a campus for you all. I see residential programs, because these young people are going to need a place to stay.
Oh yeah. So I can tell you that we are in discussions and opening up a transitional living facility. Many of our children come to us, they're couch hopping, so they're technically homeless. So we have a transitional living facility coming. We are also looking for land in the city of Newark, particularly in the South Ward, to build a much larger space. We are busting out the seams here. So yeah, those are definitely projects on the horizon.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it based on what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Absolutely.
Now, Mr. Monk, Dr. Monk, excuse me, Tasha, excuse me, Dr. Monk, why are you smiling so much? What do you have to say?
I'm smiling because as I'm listening, I'm just connecting the dots. I think from both Ms. Onuga's point, Mr. Mompoint's point, Mr. White's point, I think that mentoring, from what I'm hearing, mentoring is one of those things that helps to transition individuals. You can focus on young people, whatever your particular area is, folks of color, moving them into having better outcomes. And I think that, as a person in higher education, I started to think about my own role and how I can help the next generation to transition into that next point and where they want to transition. And I think that, at least for me, I take what I do in terms of in the classroom really, really seriously. For me, I think my own success is based upon mentorship. There were several people who pulled me to the side and who mentored me to become, I'm the first person in my family to graduate high school, to go to college, to go into graduate school, get a PhD, all those good things within my family. But that was not because I was so smart. I think that I had discipline, but I don't think I was the brightest or smartest person in the classroom. But there were several people who pulled me aside and gave me direction. And because of their direction, that's where I am where I am. And I recognize that, when I step onto my campus, I am only one of the only or few people of color, and specifically few young men of color. And I recognize that. And I recognize that when I go into my classroom, it's important for me to set an example for other folks who may not see themselves in the faculty or in the administration on a college campus. So I guess I think about what Mr. White just talked about. How do I use my space to help create opportunities for other people and creating access? I think one of the important things, something that Ms. Onuga talked about was this idea around access and opportunity, and how to create that for people who desire that. That's why I was smiling. As you all were talking, I was making those connections in my head, and how important the work it is that we are doing in our own spaces, whether it's in law, whether it's in education, whether it's in social work, and then how we, even though we're in different parts of the world or different professions, we're still working in tandem, trying to get to a particular outcome.
So here's a specific question, Tasha. Did you see disparities in the way that Black and brown people were treated versus others within other ethnicities within the criminal justice system?
Sure. I can say that like I said, I was a prosecutor in the Bronx, New York, which is portions of the Bronx represent the poorest congressional district in the United States. So one, I was mostly prosecuting the people involved in the criminal justice system in the Bronx while I was there were mostly very poor people. That's what they had in common. And the vast majority, I don't think I had anyone who was not Black or Latinx that I can recall off the top of my head who was involved in the criminal justice system as a defendant. So there are disparities in the criminal justice system. A lot of them have to do with race. A significant amount has to do with resources. So if you are in, maybe a different prosecutor's office where you are prosecuting different types of crime, where the types of individuals who are charged with crime tend to be more well-resourced, I can only guess, that wasn't my reality, but I can only guess that things would probably look a little bit different. When I initially started as a prosecutor, that was pre-criminal justice reform, that was decarceration movements. So there wasn't a lot of, what the differences that I would say I see in the criminal justice system are pre and post this movement to reform criminal justice that a lot of people are talking about, that a lot of politicians are moving forward with, both on the left and the right. And previously, no one took into account someone's socioeconomic, I won't say at all, but rarely did you take into account someone's socioeconomic status. Rarely did you take into account the circumstances of someone's upbringing, the fact that they had a substance use disorder, the fact that they have significant or even, quote unquote, minor mental health issues. Those things were, like, I'll see you at trial and you can argue that, on mitigation to a judge who will determine those things. Now, there are whole units, like the unit that I was a part of, that all we do is look at the individual. So yes, as prosecutors, you are looking at the effect that crime has on society. And just like the vast majority of my quote unquote defendants were Black, all of my victims were Black. So, and they were all living in these communities and they were all traumatized by some of the events that they had to deal with. And so you're dealing with both sides of that spectrum. But now what we try to do is really look at the entire person and say, this person has a substance use disorder. This person is stealing cars, breaking car windows and stealing the merchandise out of the car. Yes, we can throw him in jail, give him a criminal record for stealing this person's car. And yes, the victim is aggrieved because these are poor people who saved up all their money to buy cars either. There's no reason why we shouldn't focus on that. But perhaps if we look into this person's substance use, get them into a program that's dedicated to looking at not only their usage, but whether or not they have housing, whether or not they have education, whether or not they have any work skills, deal with those problems, then we can prevent this person from coming back into the criminal justice system, as opposed to putting them on pause for 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, while they're incarcerated, and not really doing much to deal with the root causes that are causing them to be in the criminal justice system in the first place. So those are some of the main differences that I was able to see, because I was not operating within an area where there was a lot of diversity in terms of socioeconomic factors or race that matter.
I recently heard someone speak who's in a program. A lot of you know I'm in a doctoral program with New York Theological Seminary. And I was talking with Dr. Monk, and he was like, well, why are you so anxious? And I was like, I've never had, until this program, a Black professor, undergraduate, 2 master's degrees, never had a Black teacher. And so my experiences weren't the most positive, but I kept going despite that. And even at this level, those memories came back to me. And this is where I'm going with that, the issue of trauma and whole communities that suffer from it on varying levels. But all of us don't have that level of resiliency. So what am I saying? I heard a young man recently, very bright young man. He's in a program, an academic program, and he said, the biggest reason for recidivism, one of the biggest reasons, is that you are released to the same community, to the same people, the same things that you did before. And those people want an explanation of why you harmed them. And there's no work in terms of putting things back together again. And so to avoid that, the person goes right back and does the same thing in an environment where that's no longer an issue. And I was like, who but a person who has had that lived experience would understand that the trauma is so overwhelming that the best way to deal with it is to avoid it. And because we don't have that level of understanding in terms of working with this community, it continues to fester. And I think about programs like yours, Mr. White, where that's what, like I said, I could just see this residential program where we are teaching people new ways to live out their lives, having new communication skills to express how they're thinking, new ways new skills to teach them how to manage conflict so that they don't end up in a criminal justice system without any resources, because we know they don't have resources in the first place, because those people who did, they left town years ago.
Well, that's heavy in our alternative high school space, providing with soft skills and being able to help them deal with the mental deal with mental trauma that they've experienced. Funny that I went over to New York a couple of weeks ago to Charlemagne the God's Mental Wealth Expo and picked up on a lot of resources. And it's funny how you called me and I was thinking about, we're going to do what we call Mental Wealth Wednesdays here, where we're not even going to do class. We're just going to do activities and workshops based on mental health. And one of the questions you asked, how can agencies like New Life Counseling provide behavioral health support? We're going to be reaching out to you to run these workshops. We're going to be reaching out to you and others to come in. And we're going to reach out to the experts to come in to work with our young people. We have over 55 young people between the age of 16 and 22 in our program who've been dealing with so much trauma. And we're not the experts in it. My job is to provide them with the resource. So we're definitely going to be reaching out to you and others to come in and provide that speak. I mean, Dr. Monk, I'm definitely going to be reaching out to that brother to talk about some things that we can do on a higher level in terms of secondary education. So I think this platform was very, very needed. It's amazing. And I'm looking forward to working with many of you guys after this.
Thank you. Sam, back to you. You admitted you were a knucklehead when you were young. Sam. So in terms of mentoring, what impact has it had on your life? And now in your current role, you're a student and you work as a behavioral assistant with us. What are some of the challenges that you have in working with young people? So what impact has mentoring had on your life? And what are some of the challenges that you have with engaging young people in mentoring relationships?
Like I was saying before, people poured into me, and I was filled with a lot, you know. My parents passed when I was younger. My dad when I was 11, my mom when I was 12. And well, even before then, I was a knucklehead. I was a class clown, all of that stuff. And it's normal. It's normal where I grew up to kind of play the class clown or play down your intellect, because it seemed like growing up, all of the kids who were smart, all of the kids who took education seriously, they were kind of like picked on, or they were joked about, or it was uncool. Like for some reason, education growing up wasn't a cool thing, you know. So that was, you know, some of the reasons why I would, you know, do it to try and fit in. And then when my parents passed, I got into a very depressed mode, you know, for a long time that I didn't kick until well into my adulthood. And I had people though who still took me in and would talk to me. They would say certain things to me. And one of the biggest things that mentoring did for me was it gave me permission to think outside of where I grew up in. You know, something that I still take to this day is something my older cousin said to me in high school. He took me to an all-boys school and he put me there for high school. He took me away from Irvington, where I grew up, because he didn't want me in that environment anymore. And what he said to me when I asked him, like, why are you taking me all the way out of here, you know, away from my friends or away from Black people, pretty much, because it was predominantly, you know, white. It was mixed, but it was predominantly white. I was like, you know, why are you taking me away from everything that I know? And he said to me that there's more to life than the hood. And he said it just like that. And that is something that I live by to this day. And I say to other young people, because it gave me permission to see the world from a different perspective, to see it outside of my block, outside of my apartment house, outside of the neighborhood and everything. And that's what I try to bring to other kids. That's what I try to bring to everybody that I speak to, that there's more to your situation than what you're seeing, and give yourself permission to think outside of that. Give yourself permission to be who you really are, and not try to fit yourself in a box, because that's what they say a Black man is supposed to be, because that's what they say a Black woman is supposed to be. We're more than rap. We're more than entertainment. We're more than cracking jokes and fighting and all of the stereotypes that they say about us, and not just, you know, our counterparts, but also our own people. You know what I mean? And I want to be, I guess, a part of the movement where we're saturating the culture, because our culture is filled with a lot of things that are kind of negative, a lot of trauma that we've kind of had to adapt with. I'm sorry, because we've had these traumatic things that have been passed on. And I see a shift coming. I see a shift where mental health and us understanding us understanding our emotions, us understanding our gifts, our talents, our intellect. I see that being pushed more and more. And the more it's being saturated in our culture, the more all of the other negatives, all of the other traumas that have been in our community so long, the more that's being removed, you know what I mean? So when I think about how I was poured into, I think of a cup, and I think about all of the BS, all of the, you know, depression, all of the stereotypes, all of the negativities that we adopted because we think that's what being Black is. I think of it as like little balls in my cup, and people who were pouring into me, speaking truth to power, you know, encouraging me, supporting me, they were that water, they were that truth, you know. And the more they poured into me, the more those negative balls, all of those traumatic balls, they were lifting up, you know, they're coming up. I still have a long ways to go, you know, and that's the beauty of mentoring, because even the kids that I work with, a lot of them, they have different experiences from me, you know, so I learn from them as well. The same way that, you know, they take from me, I take from them. And I think that's what it's all about. And it's funny because Miss Latasha, I don't know you, but I have like a few people who have come to me, who have talked to me about you, how much praise they've given you for the role that you've played in their life, you know. And one coworker in particular, he was talking to me. He came up to me today. He was like, "Yo, I see you about to be on that Zoom later with Latasha, and she used to be my mentor. She used to take me out. She used to show me different things. She was really solid. You know, those are his words. And he said he knew you when he was like in middle school or high school. So for me to now be on the same panel as you, I think that's an example of things coming full circle, you know, because you played that role in his life and it completely stuck with him, and it changed certain things that he could have gotten into, because he told me about how like he didn't see himself going to college, and him being with you, I'm sure affected him too, and it put him in a place where he would think about certain decisions that he would make. He probably thought about you before he made certain decisions, and now he's working in the school with me, you know, mentoring other boys and girls too. So like the full circle right there is shown, and I think that's the beauty of mentoring, and that's what mentoring has been for me. I'm sorry that was a long-winded answer. I forgot the other part of your question.
You answered it very well, Sam. You know, and I always say when I think of you, I know Sam, but I didn't know any of this that you just shared with us. I just knew the kind of spirit that you had. So thank you for sharing that.
No doubt. Transparency too. That's what we gotta do with the kids as well. You know, you gotta, you know, sometimes we as adults we talk to kids sometimes from a point of view where we know it all, you know, and it kind of creates like a barrier or a gap where they see you as, you know, they put you on a pedestal sometimes because they see you in such high regard. But when we're transparent and we show them that, you know, I've been there too, you know, I've done this too, you know, it also gives them permission to be honest with who they are and where they are, so that they don't have to put up a front and they can be vulnerable with you. You know, that's what I try to do with all my kids as well, you know, build that relationship. You can't build that relationship without having trust that I could be my real self with you. So yeah, thank you.
Mr. Webb, can I quickly just interject, if I may? Sam, that was sweet. I think I know exactly who you're talking about. And I just want to take a step back. I know I was here mostly to talk about the legal perspective, but all of this conversation about mentorship really inspired, which is really inspiring to me. Some of the most important things, just like Sam said, that were done for me is that people poured into me. And that's why, you know, I was able to have the experiences that I've been able to have. And I have been toying with the idea. I wanted to revitalize a pre-college program that I was a part of when I was in high school that has been defunct for a number of years, and I've been just procrastinating and putting it off and not doing it. And I think this conversation and what Sam said in particular really has motivated me and moved me in a way to encourage me to actually do this thing that I have been procrastinating about. And the program that Sam spoke about that his colleague benefited from was a program at Rikers University, where the university wanted us to focus on certain schools that were target schools for recruiting for them. But I pushed and I said, no, I want to focus on schools that are similar to the school that I came from, where kids are not, you know, their parents didn't go to college. They don't have, you know, I don't want to focus on, you know, the kids in South Orange, Maplewood, who are destined to go to college, period, have numerous examples of, you know, college graduates, professionals in their personal life. I want to focus on Shabazz, Eastside High, Westside High, Trenton High School, even my high school, North Tech, that was my alma mater. I want to focus on those schools that have kids like me, whose mom was a teenage mom, whose dad was not necessarily involved in their life, and who knows people who graduated from college, maybe because they're their teachers or whatever, but they don't have direct access to those people. And I want to show them a weekend on college, let them see people that look like them, that are a couple of years older than them, and that are doing the things that they themselves can do. And after a lot of pushing and sneaking and doing some stuff I wasn't supposed to do, we had that program and it was very successful. And I stayed in touch with a lot of the high school students who came and made sure that as much as I could, that they had an example in me in my social circle, which included Dr. Monk. And there were a lot of people who have told me now, still to this day, you know, years removed from that experience, that those were some of the first young Black, you know, formally educated people that they knew, and that's what showed them it was real. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this conversation, that yes, law, academia, social work, all those things are important. But I think what's really important is to know that all the tools that you took to get to wherever it is that you are, somebody else needs to figure out how to do those things as well. And they just don't know or don't have access to it. And you being not money, nothing other than your time can be such a significant change in someone else's life that can lead to a natural decarceration because they're not even involved in anything that will lead them into the criminal justice system or any of these other systems that destroy lives.
Thank you. Mr. White, you wanted to say something?
Well, yeah, she was naming, excuse me, she was naming off schools. And I was saying Leaders for Life Academy would love to be a part of that opportunity. You do have a space here. If you ever need a place to meet, you ever need a place to do certain things, there's no bureaucracy here. You know, the buck stops with me. Anyone from the community can use my facility if it's going to benefit young people. So I was saying here, like Leaders for Life Academy should have been one of the high schools she mentioned.
You hear that? Mr. White, what is the greatest lesson that you've learned in your journey and your career?
Oh, there's many. The one I'll talk about is being that shining example. You got to understand something. I was an all-state football player. I didn't get a chance to visit a college until I was a senior. That is far too late. That is far too late. And we talk about role model. We talk about being an example for our young people. Here at Leaders for Life, we take kids on college tours as early as 6th grade because they need to envision themselves being as part of this space. They need to envision themselves being on a college campus and, being able to take them, obviously all of this was pre-COVID, being able to take them on a college campus and give them an opportunity to visualize themselves being there. So college tours and college success, and we have so many things going on in my head right now. Our college to careers program, we take young people to college tours. They do financial aid workshops. I get fraternities and sororities to come in and speak to our young people. My biggest takeaway is being that shining example for the young people that I serve. It's very hard walking that fine line. And people know me, I'm gonna give you 100% of what you want, what you need, and only 50% of what you want. So, I give them tough love, and I try to be as best I can that shining example of manhood, that shining example of what success looked like. And I live that life every day for my young people. So
I have just a follow-up question for you, and it's a burning question, Mr. White. How do you recharge your battery? Because you got a lot of stuff going on.
yeah, that's the tough part. I'm also dealing with a sick daughter who's 19, who's been battling cancer for the past 4 years. So at the end of the day, that's my why, because somebody did it for me. My foster father is no longer with us, but I tell his story so much, in the back of my mind, all I hear him saying is, "You stupid boy, you have not done enough." And that is my charge. That is why I keep doing what I do and keep moving and keep going. I mean, eventually it's gonna have to slow down because I'm only one person. But that is the reason why we mentor, so we can teach others how to come in and move me out of the way, because I'm getting old. So they have to come in and take over for me. So we in the process of building our future. We have to build our future, and the young people that's in our program now will be the ones that's going to push me out of the way and come in and take over, because you're right, there's only so much more I can do. But partner up with you and partner with great people on this call helps, because I'm not just the one out here with this charge. All of you guys are doing the same thing, and part of our problem as a community is that we don't work together. That's our problem. We got to bring all this together. And so I don't have to stress about, mental health. I don't have to stress about college and career. I don't have to do that because I have partners who can take over that space. So, yeah.
Dr. Monk, what plans do you have for the future?
What plans do I have for the future? I think the short answer is where do I want to transition to have more of an impact? I think thinking about what has been said thus far, my goal is to do at least reach more people, being able to touch them and impact them. In academia, we would say high touch, right? So I want to move to a position whether administratively, where I can have more of an impact, where I can, in a sense, hold the door open for the next group. I think that there were several folks who, like LaTasha talked about, she and I went to Rutgers. I think two things. One, I think that your friends help to determine two things for you: your attitude and your altitude, right? And I got that. I'm borrowing that from actually Dr. Webb, Stephen Webb, right? But that idea is that the people that you surround yourself with really help you to determine how far you're going to go in life, because you are all setting some parameters with each other about what the next steps are going to be. And as well as they also help you to determine and look at life from a worldview versus just your view. Sometimes we can be selfish, and sometimes you need your friends to tell you you're being selfish and you need to look at things a little bit differently. So they can help to set both your attitude and your altitude. So I think your circle is just as important, especially when it comes to mentorship, because those folks help to create opportunities. But I think for me, one of the things is I want to be able to have more of an impact within higher education in terms of creating opportunities, whether that's for students or the next generation of practitioners or academicians, right? So as we are moving into higher education, it's really helping to create or being in a space where I can really, in a sense, like I said, hold that door open. Because several people done it for me. When my career teaching at Rutgers, I've been teaching at Rutgers since 2008. And I started there teaching there when I was a doctoral student. And part of that for me was that because someone took me under their wing, but they also showed me that, look, you can also move in and transition into the classroom. And that one opportunity has created a whole career where now I'm an assistant professor at a university, and I am, interacting and engaging with students every week. So part of that is really moving into more administrative role where I can have more of an impact, not just with students, but also with future academicians who want to move into higher education.
Thank you. Latasha, final question. What has been one of your biggest fears and how have you overcome it?
I will say, just to give a little bit of context to what I'm about to say, being the first person in my family to go to college and obviously the first to go to law school, coming from a working class, single parent background, my biggest fear as I did things that nobody before me had done before was to fail. And the way I reacted was by failing forward. And so, there's nothing that you learn the most, to me, or I have learned the most by doing everything that I can to succeed, and then maybe not succeeding, but learning a lesson and succeeding the next time. Because when a path is not laid for you, you just don't know what to do. So you going left, you going right. And if you just walk, you'll figure it out. But if you stand still, you won't go anywhere. So my biggest fear is being a failure, but because I fear it, it just won't ever happen.
Woo! Thank you. So, Kajina, you have a piece for us because we're getting ready to close out.
Yes. All right. This one is called We Are. Okay. We are not the visual you see before your eyes, but mere reflections of the image portrayed in your head. Our voices are not what you listen to, but chosen fragments of what you allow yourself to hear. Our past has a path for only we have taken, and our joy, well, that's a tune that only we can dance to. Our spirit bleeds from cuts. Our pain is stroked on our soul, and well, our smiles are so big, so our flaws won't show. Unsatisfied on where we stand, but very clear on where we're going. And our stride is so long because our pride won't let us stay here. We stand on the shoulders of the ones that came before us to work to fill the needs of their legacy. So if our sides by this you, learn the history. We know the fate of our future, and even the taste is exciting. But fear confuses the purpose of why. And they try to say our only goal in life is to stay Black and die. Well, we've got other plans. A brown skin tone beauty is what stands before you, and our unspoken story is for only you to allow yourself to hear. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for attending tonight. Do we have any questions for anyone? How can we do this? If you could put a question that you had for anyone. Jamila, are there any questions that anyone has? Or you can post them now. Okay.
There's a question. I see a hand by Brenda Brown Grooms. I don't know how we get.
I'm sorry, I've been muted this whole time. I was talking. I'll read the question. I didn't realize I was muted. Hold on. All right, the question is, what advice would you give social work students who still do not know what they want to specialize in?
Well, for me, I would say, as a faculty member of social work in terms of teaching it, one of the things I tell students is always start with who you don't or where you don't want to work. If you have no idea about who you want to work with, one of the biggest mantras in social work is to do no harm. So I don't need you going into the profession, going into a particular agency and messing other folks up. So I would rather you start with who are you not comfortable with working with, or what particular type of organization or agency you don't want to work with, and then start working backwards in terms of thinking about where you may want to end up. And that may help to hopefully give you some direction about where you may end up wanting to be.
Take some things off the table. And thank you, Mr. White. Thank you for participating. Any other questions?
Someone asked for all the panelists to tell us, wait, am I muted? Okay, someone asked for all the panelists to tell us what schools they went to. And then we have another question after that.
So I went to Montclair State University for my bachelor's degree. I also got a graduate certificate in child advocacy and policy from Montclair State. And currently I'm doing a master's of social work at Simmons University. It's in Boston. And I'm doing the online program.
For high school, I went to North Tech, Essex County Voc Tech. College, I went to Rutgers University in New Brunswick, and in law school, I went to Howard University.
And I went to St. Benedict's Prep, which is in Newark. And then from St. Benedict's, I went to Rutgers, New Brunswick. I went to Temple University and got my master's in social work there. And then I went to LaSalle University and got a master's in theology there. Then I went to Rutgers to get a PhD. And now I'm actually finishing up a master's in business from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Along with that, I have a couple of graduate certificates, one from University of Pennsylvania, University of Michigan, and University of Colorado at Boulder.
Okay. Okay.
And I went to St. Peter's Prep for high school. Sorry, I didn't include high school. Shout out to all my prep folks.
I think Mr. White left. Yes, so the next question, what do any of you wish the community would do to help you, the community?
What was it? Could you repeat the question?
What do any of you wish the community would do to help you, the community?
Definitely pour in positivity and truth into the kids, because, you know, I'm a firm believer that we go as far as the kids go. So no matter what your beliefs are, no matter what walk of life you've had, where you are in life currently, I just really want people to support the kids and really look out for the kids and have that as part of their code. Making sure, like, if you seeing a kid outside not going to school, or if you whatever it is, just encouraging them to do better for themselves. You know, not encouraging the bad behavior, not encouraging the self-destruction, not encouraging the cycle that we're all stuck in.
One thing I would say is don't leave the community. You know, it's fine to visit, go other places, travel, see the world, but don't leave us. because we need you. And I can, oh boy, I'm not going to reminisce about what things used to be like, but just stick with the community because we need all of you, because we all have gifts that we can share, and we're stronger together than we are dispersed.
So true, so true. Don't you think so, Miss Onuga?
Well, just to piggyback off of what everybody has said to answer that question, viewing, interpreting a question from a space of abundance, I will say that events like this, panel discussions like this, are what the community should be doing more of, and what obviously is happening. Future Dr. Webb, reaching out to his circle and using his influence to get us all here today and come up with these wonderful questions has a conversation, sparked a conversation that I think we've all been able to benefit from. I've been, chatting with Tariq White on the side before he left, just to say, let's connect. I look forward to reaching out to Sam and connecting with him. But for today, I didn't know either of these two. So I think these conversations and these discussions are what our community is doing and should continue to do.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question. What is your form of self-care and to not bring your work issues home?
One of the things that I tell students is really you gotta have something that you enjoy doing that doesn't involve work. So I actually have a friend who is a social worker, and one of the things that he does, he loves to do, is he loves to color. So when he needs to decompress and really take his mind off of what's going on at work, he colors. And for everybody has their thing. I love to drive. So, for me, I'm stressed or whatever, I'm going to get in the car, I'm going to put on some good music, and I'm going to take a drive. And I guess part of it is that you got to figure out for you, what are you comfortable with doing, or what do you enjoy? Let me say more versus comfortability. What do you enjoy doing that really helps you to decompress? The idea is, though, that it should not cause harm, right? So if you like to go shopping, shopping may not be good for everybody if you ain't got that account to keep up. So you know what I mean? Like, so some of the times making sure that what you like doing or enjoy doing doesn't harm in different ways. So you want to make sure that it is actually beneficial and that it's fruitful for you.
So Jamila, 2 more questions and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, someone said, I moved back to Newark for this. Where can I go to further the conversation?
That's a great question. Oh, okay, here it is. Find a community. Find something that you are interested in, and I guarantee you, somebody will be doing something that interests you. It may take a while for you to connect with different networks of people, but just put the word out there and look at different platforms that publicize things that you're interested in. And I guarantee you, you'll begin to connect with people who have similar interests.
Yeah, there are like so many people out here doing a lot of good work, a lot of great programs. And like Mr. Webb said, it's whatever you're interested in or whatever you're passionate about. So if you want to work with those who are incarcerated, there's the PD Green program where you can go into the prison, Northern State Prison, or down in Trenton, and you can tutor the incarcerated students to help them get their GEDs. If you love being in the school, you can volunteer with a school, or you can mentor with different nonprofits like the Bridge program or with Changing Paths. There's like painting programs where, like, if you enjoy painting, you can paint in the school too, or paint in community centers It's called Halls That Inspire, and you just go in there and you're painting beautiful murals and empowering quotes and stuff like that. So it's all about what you're into, because whatever you're into, I'm 110% sure there's somebody out here doing it. And if the small chance that there's nobody doing it, you start it. And I promise you, I will come out and check you out and help out, you know, if it's not consistently, at least for a weekend or something. So I would say that.
Okay. Kajina, do you have, you don't live on my street, one more time?
Yeah, I got you.
We're gonna end with that. And while Kajina is getting it, thank you all for attending. We're talking about mentoring. These are all my young people. Thank you. Thank you for attending, because you are the physical manifestation of what I'm trying to do. And, you know, I'm passing it on to you all. And you're doing a great job. That's why I wanted to pull you all together to show that the next generation's in good hands. You know, if we all do our part, we're going to be fine. But there is a reminder that we need to know, like I said, don't leave the community, but understand that we don't live in everyone's house, and we have to understand what they may be going through. And that'll give us some perspective. So Kajina, one more time.
Yes, I got you. Okay. So you want to know why I'm always high and why you never ever see me cry? Why do I shoot up all this junk? Have you ever seen your dad sloppy drunk? Sure, I would have more knowledge, but my dad drank up all my money for college. So how can you look at me with such conceit when you don't live on my street? So you want to know why I run away? Why I boarded up buildings I'm hiding out each day? You want to know why I chose to steal? And do you want to know why or how I got my last meal? Well, I don't worry about getting good grades. All I worry about is getting A's. Look at you with your life so sweet, but you don't live on my street. You ask me why at 14 I'm having this baby. Am I ignorant, retarded, or just plain lazy? What on earth was I thinking? I was hoping my mama wouldn't put me out. You see, your mama's boyfriend ain't messing with you. And putting his hands on your little sister too. Nah, the 7th grade I didn't complete. But hey, you don't live on my street. So you want to know why I dropped out of school? How many times can you be called a fool? Ever since the 1st grade, I've been called slow. So I wouldn't give the answer even if I did know. And how am I supposed to concentrate when I can't remember the last time I ate? Do you live every day with defeat? Then you don't live on my street. You ask me why I stay with him when he beats my head again and again. You want to know why I don't get upset? And why when he makes each drunken idle threat? Well, you don't have rats running across your head. When you lay down in your broke down bed, do you have shoes to cover your feet? Well, then you don't live on my street. You want to know why I'm not raising my child? Well, you know, I ain't worked in a while. You want to know why I don't keep in touch? Is buying some Pampers asking too much? Can I start coming around the place? I'm ashamed to let my child see my face. You're supposed to get out the kitchen if you can't take the heat. So nah, you don't live on my street. You don't know a thing about me, but there are some things you must see until you have walked in my shoes for a while and had a taste of my lifestyle, until you have lived in my house and given a name to each mouse, until you have seen your mother get beat. You don't even live on my street. Until you have walked my walk, until you have talked my talk, until you have knelt down on my knees, until you have eaten my government cheese, until you have smelled life through my nose, until you have worn my pantyhose, until you have seen life through my eyes, until you have worn my dress size, until you have lived inside my head, until you have laid down in my bed, until you read what's on my mind, until you stood in welfare lines, until you have been called my name, until you have felt some of my shame, until you have sold some of my dope, until you have lost all of my hope, until you stood under my rain, until you felt some of my pain, until you have eaten what I have eaten. Then understand this: you don't live on my street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our marching orders, everyone. Our marching orders. Thank you. And good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. Good night.